Today, we're diving into a system of astrology that is, well, it's radically different from what you're probably used to. It came out of 1920s Germany, and it suggests there's this hidden layer to the cosmos, a whole set of invisible forces that are shaping our lives in really specific and maybe even predictable ways.
So let's just jump right in with the big question that gets to the absolute heart of this system. Are there planets out there influencing us that we can't actually see? I mean, not with a telescope, not with anything. The founders of Uranian Astrology were absolutely convinced the answer was a resounding yes. So what is this thing exactly? It's called Uranian Astrology, or sometimes the Hamburg School, and it was developed by a German engineer named Alfred Witte. Now, its core idea is that beyond the planets we all know, there are 8 distinct energy points, and these are the real key to understanding and predicting concrete events. I'm talking about things like a sudden promotion, an accident, or that one moment of incredible achievement. Okay, so this brings us to the first major part of the system, these mysterious, invisible planets. Let's meet the new characters in our cosmic drama, shall we?
Now, we need to be really clear about something. These 8 transneptunian planets, or TNPs for short, they are not physical bodies floating around in space. Think of them instead as conceptual tools. They're symbolic, they're mathematical points that add a whole new layer of precision to an astrological chart.
And each of these invisible planets represents a very, very specific kind of energy. You can see here, for example, you've got Hades, which points to the past, to hidden problems, even decay. But then on the flip side, you have something like Zeus, which is all about pure creative force and that relentless drive to achieve your goals. See? They're not vague concepts. They're designed to be super specific tools for analysis.
But it's not just about adding a bunch of new planets. That's only half the story. The real secret weapon of Uranian astrology is its totally unique way of looking at the zodiac, using something called the 90-degree dial. This is where it gets really interesting.
Now, this concept sounds way more complicated than it actually is. Just picture this. Imagine you take the whole 360-degree zodiac wheel and you fold it in half. And then you fold it in half again. All of a sudden, bam! All 4 of the cardinal points, Aries, Cancer, Libra, and Capricorn, they're all stacked right on top of each other. This one simple fold literally changes everything about how you read the chart.
So you might be asking, why on earth would you do that? Well, here's why it's so crucial. This method filters out all the astrological noise, and it forces you to focus only on what are called hard aspects. Now, in this system, these aspects, the conjunctions, squares, oppositions, they're not seen as difficult. No, they're seen as the engines, the primary drivers of action and actual tangible events in the world.
Okay, so we've got these weird new planets, and we've got this folded up 90-degree perspective. The final piece of the puzzle is how you put it all together. And this is where Uranian astrology starts to look less like ancient mysticism and a whole lot more like math.
You see, the entire system is built on the concept of the midpoint, and it's exactly what it sounds like. It's the mathematical point precisely halfway between any 2 planets. But this isn't just some random spot. It's considered an incredibly sensitive point where the energies of those 2 planets blend together and manifest powerfully.
And this leads to what Alfred Witte called a planetary picture. And honestly, it's basically an astrological equation. When a third planet sits right on the midpoint of 2 others, you get a formula just like this one. It looks like something from a physics textbook, right? It's read as a statement of fact. Planet C is the result of planet A and planet B coming together.
Let's make this real with a concrete example. Say the invisible planet Kronos, which represents authority and mastery, lands on the midpoint of the Sun, your core self, and Mars, your drive and action. Well, the interpretation is incredibly direct. Your personal drive is activating the principle of authority. The prediction, a potential and very literal rise to a high position. It's direct, it's causal, and it's all about events.
So, it's probably pretty clear by now that this is not your typical everyday astrology. Let's do a quick side-by-side comparison to really nail down just how fundamentally different the entire philosophy is.
I mean, the differences are just stark. Classical astrology relies so heavily on the 12 houses to understand your psychological character, right? Uranian astrology pretty much ignores them. Classical looks at all kinds of aspects. Uranian only cares about the hard ones. But the biggest difference is the goal. Classical astrology is about understanding your inner self, while Uranian astrology is laser-focused on one thing, predicting concrete real-world events. It's just less interpretive and way more mathematical.
You know, a system this mechanical didn't just appear out of thin air. It was born in a very specific time and place, 1920s Germany. but it faced immense pressure during the Third Reich. Alfred Witte was actually persecuted by the Nazis, who burned his books. He tragically died in 1941. The only reason his work survived at all is because his students carried it forward after the war.
So, as you can imagine, a system this radical has plenty of supporters and, of course, plenty of critics. Supporters will swear by it, claiming it has this almost uncanny level of precision in forecasting major life events. But on the other hand, the critics point to a pretty fundamental and, you gotta admit, a pretty big problem. Those transneptunian planets? There's zero astronomical proof they actually exist. They are, for now, purely hypothetical.
So where does that leave us today? What's the relevance of this highly technical, kind of controversial system in our modern world?
There's this one quote from a source that I think just perfectly nails the entire philosophy. It says that Uranian astrology sees you less as a psychological type and more as a fact in motion. Think about that. It's not that interested in who you are as a person. It sees you as an object moving through a geometric system of forces with a predictable path.
And this is where it gets really interesting in the 21st century, because the whole system is built on such clear mathematical rules, on equations. It's almost uniquely suited for computers. You can program these rules. You can get a computer to search for these planetary pictures automatically.
Which leaves us with one last, kind of mind-bending question. In a world that is so increasingly driven by data, by algorithms, is it possible that the future of astrology isn't found in ancient symbols, but in code? Could a system like Uranian astrology actually be a strange glimpse into that future? It's definitely something to think about.